Hi, Renee. How are you doing?
Hi, Annette. I'm doing well. Yeah, still so excited about SVALUR that Belmont funded it and that we're now having started.
Yeah, me too. It's super exciting. And what a team we have.
Yeah, it's amazing. 4 countries, 7 institutions, just what we need to capture rapid environmental change in the Arctic.
Yeah, and also to understand what that change means to the people.
And that knowledge ought to be far better than what comes out of environmental monitoring alone. So that is, so quite an opportunity there.
Yeah, the challenge is really how can we combine these different ways of knowing, and also to help put a face on environmental change, what it means, and what the consequences are for the people experiencing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In that sense, doing that on Svalbard is very special because there, of course, there's no long-term environmental memory, as it were. Very few people have lived all their lives in that archipelago. So in that sense, our approach of combining environmental monitoring with people's stories and their experiences of change, environmental change, is really something that could make a big difference.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of the reasons that captured my interest in SVALUR as well as a social scientist. Not only that we have this sort of untapped potential in the stories and narrative practices of how we can understand change and what it means and the consequences and so, but also the specific challenges in SVALUR, because it is such a transient society with lots of people coming and going and few people living for longer periods of time and particularly over a generation. So it will be intriguing to see what are the stories and narrative practices that are being told but not heard outside of Svalbard, and what can we learn from them?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's quite remarkable because I've been going to Svalbard for over 20 years now, and it's very clear that, I go there as a natural scientist, as an ecologist, do measurements, contribute to environmental monitoring, but these are all very specific measurements I take and other people take, but they don't add up to something particularly holistic, and that holds for much of the monitoring we do. And more importantly, I don't live there. So I'm really a migrant gathering information and hopefully understanding, and then take that understanding with me, fly out, and so do many or most of the environmental monitors in Svalbard, because I know very well that people who live on Svalbard have a far deeper knowledge of what's going on, and people who have explored large parts of Svalbard, places where, and it's capturing those understandings and making sense of them collectively, comparing environmental monitoring and what we learned from that with stories of people. That is that would be such a fantastic thing to do.
Sometimes we think of narrative analysis or stories as part of a traditional knowledge, and it really is, but of course it also exists in all communities and all cultures and all societies. So I'm thinking that there will also be really interesting scientific stories that we can help to retrieve from just listening to people. And one of the things that the narrative practices hold that this sort of monitoring data does not in a similar sense is also that stories are not only vehicles of information, but they're also fundamentally normative, which means that stories can be a really powerful way of also communicating and spurring action on environmental change and helping decision makers to make better decisions and acting under uncertainty.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think as a team also to try to work towards such a kind of environmental memory of the place, and think of creative ways to communicate that, working with partners on Svalbard, because there's so many people who visit this place, but that's also a fantastic opportunity to inform other parts of the world about environmental change in the high Arctic, the way we try to set out. So I think a lot of work to do.
It is a lot of work to do, but it's really, really exciting work that we have ahead of us. And it would be amazing if we were able to craft stories jointly together with all of these actors, and also to create part of this environmental institutional memory.
Cool. Yeah. No, I think so. Yeah. Do you think people will remember what SVALUR stands for?
Yeah, I think so. It's quite a long acronym, actually.
It's a bit longer now. I keep having to look it up. Understanding resilience and long-term environmental change in the high Arctic. Narrative-based analysis from Svalbard. Bit long. SVALUR for short. Clearly does it.
Yeah, it clearly does it. But how did we get to the SVALUR part?
Yeah, what SVALUR, of course, means cold and cool in Icelandic. And cool this project is.